What if I told you that a convicted sex offender, a man who pleaded guilty to procuring a child for prostitution, served his jail sentence in a private wing of a county stockade, and was allowed to leave that facility for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, to go to a comfortable office in downtown West Palm Beach? Pause. What if I told you that this arrangement was approved before he even reported to serve his sentence? That his attorneys negotiated his incarceration the same way you might negotiate a hotel room, with preferences, conditions, and special accommodations? And what if I told you that while this man enjoyed his work release, his victims, girls who were 14, 15, 16 years old when he abused them, had no idea the deal had even been made? Pause. The man was Jeffrey Epstein. The sentence was 18 months. He served approximately 13. And the word jail barely describes what it actually looked like. Stay till the end to see the document that changes everything. I'm Mark Epstein, and this is the Epstein Files. Pause. It is June 30th, 2008, Palm Beach County, Florida. Jeffrey Edward Epstein walks into the Palm Beach County Stockade. Not a federal prison, not a state penitentiary, but a county jail facility, to begin serving his 18-month sentence. Source: Florida Department of Corrections records, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office records, Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, Part 3. He has pleaded guilty to 2 state charges in Palm Beach County Circuit Court. 1 count of solicitation of prostitution and 1 count of procurement of a person under the age of 18 for prostitution. Source: Palm Beach County Circuit Court case records, NPA document, PACER, case 088099 SD, Florida. These charges are the result of the non-prosecution agreement we detailed in episode 22, the deal negotiated by United States Attorney Alexander Acosta that allowed Epstein to avoid federal sex trafficking charges carrying potential sentences of 10 years to life. Source: PACER, case 088099, DOJ OPR report, November 2020. Under Florida law at the time, solicitation of prostitution was a misdemeanor. Procurement of a minor for prostitution was a felony. But even that charge, as structured in Epstein's plea, carried a maximum sentence well below what federal charges would have imposed. Source: Florida statutes, Palm Beach County Circuit Court records. The 18-month sentence handed down by Palm Beach County Circuit Court Judge Deborah Dale Puccillo was itself a negotiated outcome, part of the larger architecture of the NPA. Source: Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice. Part 3, Palm Beach County Circuit Court records. But here's where it gets disturbing. Pause. Before Epstein even set foot inside the stockade, his legal team had already secured something extraordinary. On October 17, 2008, according to records later obtained through public records requests and reporting by the Palm Beach Post and the Miami Herald, Epstein began participating in a work release program administered by the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Source: Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office records, Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice. Part 4, Palm Beach Post investigation. Under this program, Epstein was permitted to leave the Palm Beach County Stockade for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Source: Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office Work Release Records, Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, Part 4. The stated purpose of the work release was to allow Epstein to go to work. His designated workplace was an office located in a suite in the offices of the Florida Science Foundation, a nonprofit entity linked to Epstein, situated in downtown West Palm Beach. Source: Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice. Part 4, Palm Beach Post, reporting, corporate records. The address associated with his work release destination was reported as being on South Dixie Highway in West Palm Beach. Source: Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office records, Miami Herald reporting. Let me set this scene clearly. Pause. Every morning, a private driver would come to the Stockade. Jeffrey Epstein would leave. He would be driven to his office. He would spend his day, up to 12 hours, in a comfortable, air-conditioned office space, not in a cell. He could receive visitors, he could make phone calls, he could conduct business. Then, in the evening, the driver would return him to the Stockade to sleep. Source: Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, Part 4, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office logs. This was not a standard work release arrangement. According to the Miami Herald's investigation, the terms of Epstein's work release were arranged through direct negotiations between his attorneys and the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, which at the time was led by Sheriff Rick Bradshaw. Source: Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, Part 4, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office Public Records. The Herald reported that Epstein's attorneys had begun discussions about the work release arrangement months before his sentence even began, suggesting that the comfortable terms of his so-called incarceration were baked into the plan from the start. Source: Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, Part 4. Records later obtained by the Miami Herald revealed that the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office assigned a deputy to Epstein during his work release hours. Source: Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office records, Miami Herald reporting. This deputy was, in effect, a personal escort. Not a guard enforcing the terms of a punishment, but a companion ensuring a smooth daily routine for a wealthy convicted sex offender. Now, if you're still here, it means you can handle the truth. So let me show you what they didn't want you to see. The conditions inside the Stockade itself were also unusual. According to reporting by the Miami Herald and the Palm Beach Post, Epstein was housed in a private wing of the facility, separate from the general population. He had his own cell. He was not subjected to the same daily routines as other inmates. The arrangement resembled, in the words of one critic quoted in the Herald's investigation, something closer to a private room than a jail cell. Let me put this in context. Pause. The FBI had identified 36 underage victims. Federal prosecutors had drafted a 53-page indictment. The evidence included testimony from girls who described being recruited from shopping malls, from their high schools, from the streets of Palm Beach County, brought to 358 El Brillo Way and subjected to sexual abuse. And the man responsible for that abuse was spending his days in an office and his nights in a private wing of a county stockade. The work release raised serious questions about how such an arrangement was approved. Under Florida's work release statutes, eligibility and terms are administered by the local sheriff's office. But in 2009, after the details of Epstein's arrangement began to surface through media inquiries and court filings, in Case 08-80736 CIV, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office faced scrutiny over whether Epstein had received preferential treatment. In the years that followed, the Sheriff's Office maintained that the work release arrangement was handled according to standard procedures. However, reporting by Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald, published in November 2018 as part of the AN's Perversion of Justices series, detailed evidence suggesting that the terms of Epstein's work release were far more generous than those typically granted to other inmates serving similar sentences. This is where the official story falls apart. Pause. According to records reviewed by the Miami Herald and subsequently referenced in Florida state oversight discussions, visitors came and went from Epstein's work release office. The nature and identity of all visitors during work release hours has never been fully disclosed publicly. The question of what Epstein did during those 12 hours a day, who he met, what he arranged, what he was allowed to do, remained for years an open wound in this case. Epstein was credited with good behavior. His 18-month sentence was reduced. He was released from the Palm Beach County Stockade on July 22, 2009, after serving approximately 13 months. Upon release, he was required to register as a sex offender in the state of Florida. a Tier 1 sex offender under state law. He also owed restitution, and under the terms of the NPA, he was required to make payments to victims through legal channels. But here is what makes this even more difficult to accept. Pause. While Epstein was enjoying his work release, while he was spending his days in a downtown office and his nights in a private wing, victim's attorney Bradley Edwards was fighting in federal court to have the non-prosecution agreement reviewed and potentially overturned. Case 08-80736 CIV, the Crime Victims' Rights Act lawsuit, was actively being litigated throughout Epstein's incarceration. Victim's attorney Bradley Edwards was fighting in federal court to have the non-prosecution agreement reviewed and potentially overturned. Case 08-80736 CIV, the Crime Victims' Rights Act lawsuit, was actively being litigated throughout Epstein's incarceration. The victims represented in that case had not been informed of the NPA before it was signed. And they were not consulted about the work release arrangement either. Consider the mathematics of justice in this case. Pause. 36 identified victims. A 53-page draft federal indictment. Charges that could have meant decades in a federal penitentiary. And the result? 13 months in a county stockade with 12 hours of daily freedom, 6 days a week, in a private office, with a personal driver and a sheriff's deputy escort. Pause. After his release in July 2009, Epstein returned to his residences in New York City, on his private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, in New Mexico, and in Palm Beach. He remained a registered sex offender, but he was free, and he would remain free for an entire decade, until July 6, 2019, when FBI agents arrested him at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey on new federal charges filed by the Southern District of New York, Case 19-CR-490. He remained a registered sex offender, but he was free, and he would remain free for an entire decade, until July 6, 2019, when FBI agents arrested him at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey on new federal charges filed by the Southern District of New York, Case 19-CR-490. 10 years. Pause. 10 years between a sentence that barely qualified as incarceration and the federal reckoning that should have come in 2007. During those 10 years, additional victims would come forward, additional evidence would surface, and the man who had been given every advantage the justice system could offer would continue living as one of the wealthiest and most connected individuals in the country. So I ask you this. When a convicted sex offender who pleaded guilty to procuring a child for prostitution receives a work release program that allows him to spend most of his waking hours in a private office, when the terms of that release are negotiated by high-powered attorneys before the sentence even begins, when victims are shut out of the process at every stage, from the plea deal to the sentencing to the work release, what word do we use for that? Is that justice? Is that accountability? Or is it something else entirely? Something the court documents reveal, but the system was never designed to fix. The powerful bury the truth, but paper has a longer memory than power. If this episode opened your eyes, hit subscribe and the bell icon, because every file matters. Comment below. Should Epstein's work release records be fully released to the public? I read every single one. Share this before it disappears from your feed. Next file. The victims who fought back. How Courtney Wild, Virginia Giuffre, and others refused to stay silent, and the lawsuits they filed that would eventually crack open this entire case. You do not want to miss it. I'm Mark Epstein, and I'll see you in the next file.